back one slide. All right, recording is started. So again, the first topic is removing win from competitor sales. So the agenda is kind of starting with positioning Microsoft CRM and positioning it against any competition out there. So just giving you some general things you can go into into any compete deal with, and kind of lead with some of that type of information. But then we'll also take a look at 3 of our main competitors, Salesforce being kind of our biggest competitor, and then Oracle and SAP. So just giving you a little bit of information about them, as well as some areas where you can try to lead into in the compete category there, as far as what things to leverage and what things you can talk about that might help win those deals. So as we get into competition, Dynamics CRM has many competitors out there that you may come across. Some competitors may be full CRM suite solutions like Salesforce or SAP, but you may find a lot of other niche solutions out there that, and I see the slide isn't quite coming up right. It's in the download. The names of the little squares should come up a little bit better. I'm not sure why Live Meeting crunched those together, but you'll find a number of little niche solutions that really focus in on specific verticals or industries. And sometimes those little niche solutions are almost as hard to compete against as a bigger solution, because they do one thing or one set of functionality really, really well. And so that's where we really need to go in and sell the value of Dynamics CRM, not only just to customize it to meet that one specific vertical or the one specific need, but the value the company can get in other areas as well. So those are just kind of some things to think about. The things we talk about today can be used against larger competition as well as the smaller competition as well. A few other things or questions sometimes we get is, within Microsoft itself, we have products that sometimes could actually compete against each other. We have a smaller version of Microsoft of a contact management solution called Business Contact Manager. We have Dynamics Nav and AX that have some CRM capabilities inside it. SharePoint sometimes can be used for tracking some of your contacts and things like that. But when we kind of get into those discussions, we really want to show the value of kind of the better together story of integrating the full suite of CRM with like a Navision or an AX or a GP, or the integration with SharePoint like we'll talk about today as in the second session. But just kind of showing the value of them together versus more of a competing product. Those are just some of the common things that we see from customers, or questions that we may get around different products and that may compete against each other. We will focus again on the bigger 3 as we kind of go through this slide deck. Again, the first section we'll go through here is more on just general positioning that you can use with any deal that you're working on. Let me just try to refresh this slide here. I'm not sure why Live Meeting is not liking my slides here. That first number that's crunched together should be 72%. But I'll talk about that here in a second. But delivering great customer experiences has never been more important. In today's mobile and social first world, the customer experience can provide basically the experience you provide to your customers can help you win and retain your existing customers and win new customers. 72% of all internet users are now on social media, and 68% of those internet users trust consumer opinions posted online. So if you have companies that aren't giving or aren't able to provide a great customer experience, the ability for customers to switch today is pretty common. And 86% of customers say they are willing to pay more for a better customer experience. So with the ability to switch brands, basically just a quick click away, we really need to be able to provide a solution or technologies and solutions that customers can use to manage their customer base and really win and retain those customers. They need a system that's easy to use, easy to configure to meet their business processes. They need to be able to find their customer information quick and easy. and basically then provide their customers a great experience because they know who their customers are, they know information about them. And that's kind of where the Dynamics CRM product comes into play, is being able to provide that great customer experience for their customers. Being able to, like I said, being able to find their information, know what's going on about them, what they like, what they don't like, what they're after, and just being able to provide for them. So let's take a look. We saw this slide yesterday, but we're going to kind of drill into it a little bit more in the next few slides about how Dynamics CRM helps deliver that amazing customer experience. So as you're positioning Dynamics CRM, one of the first things to kind of focus in on is on user adoption. So the ability to customize the system to easily meet the needs of their business. It is common knowledge that the number one problem of most CRM projects is that the system may never be adopted. And so being able to tailor the system to their business and help them drive their own user adoption really provides more value for the system. So being able to embed the Yammer, like we talked a little bit about yesterday, embedding the Yammer and some of the sharing capabilities right within the tool, being able to show Outlook and a few other or data within Outlook and few other apps that they're already using, just giving them that people first design and being able to show the ease and use of Dynamics CRM in applications that they're already familiar with. So there's really no more flipping between different applications. Some customers may have a disparate set of systems that have some ERP information in and like with their orders, and some may have some contact information and other information all kind of spread out in many different systems. Well, getting all that into CRM or integrating with CRM means really no more flipping between applications, getting distracted, trying to figure out where things are stored, and just really kind of breaking down those barriers to get customers the information they need when they need it at the right time. So another area to focus in on is around collaboration and mobility. So communicating via social networks is basically kind of a second nature to us in our personal lives. And so why can't that be in our work life as well? So giving us, again, social tools to help us do our work, help us reach more networks, more folks to help us in collaborating on deals, on support cases, whatever it may be, right within CRM, and no matter what device I'm on. If I'm at work or I'm traveling with my tablet or my phone, I should be able to collaborate internally with my other users within the system, as well as find the information I need for the customers I'm working with. So just the mobility of the product, being able to take your CRM license and basically have access to it on any device, whether you're mobile or not, without any additional fees. The third area that you can kind of focus in on for demos and stuff is around the BI and the insights. We looked at insights briefly yesterday with the Inside View add-on. So being able to pull data from a data source and get relevant information updated in the system easily is one advantage. And then being able to take that data that's already in the system and develop personal dashboards, personal views, basically getting the right data that person or that role needs to do their job. And so that's the thing that demos really well is having different user type roles as they log in, have different dashboards and different charts and things that they access, and just showing the data right front and center on the screen. It definitely helps in showing the impact of the BI and the insights you can get within CRM. And then, of course, kind of what we talked about yesterday in the second half of the day is just showing the value of Dynamics CRM with Office 365. And yes, these products could be used separately, but when you really put them together and show that, hey, you could still use Excel with CRM and still do your charts and your pivot reports and things like that, but we're just pulling data from CRM. Or maybe you're pulling data from CRM and some in your ERP system into a Power BI dashboard or something like that. There's just many things you can do when you combine the productivity of Office 365 and then the business application functionality of CRM to really show the capabilities that these two products can have together. And we'll dive deeper into each of the areas here over the next coming days and our next coming sessions. But then the last thing, a lot of times for most customers, it really comes down to total cost of ownership. What is the value I'm going to get for the amount I'm going to pay? What's the ROI on my return on investment? There is a link on this slide at the very bottom. It goes out to it's an older case study for Dynamics CRM, but it shows an example of one customer that by implementing CRM, they had an ROI of over 243% for what they were for basically their sales, or basically their company ROI total. But just kind of showing higher adoption rates and different, basically showing that ROI that the CRM can provide and the benefits it can provide by automating a lot of tasks that you have in the system. I mentioned yesterday, it is, CRM Online is backed by Microsoft. It has a 99.9% SLA. So just kind of showing that information. Other competitors don't have a financially backed SLA, and so some customers that is important to them. Others maybe just look strictly at cost, and as we'll get into some of the costs later on in comparisons with like Salesforce, but just showing the cost benefits and the value of bundling CRM and Office 365 together can really save on that total cost of ownership for your customers. All right, so let's take a little look at Salesforce here. So Salesforce, like I mentioned earlier, is probably one of our top competitors. It seems like any time we're in a pre-sales deal or working with a customer, you're probably going to run into Salesforce at some point. They are a successful CRM company. They have this is a little bit older slide. They have over 92,000 successful customers. They were rated by Gartner as one of the top CRM sales applications. Their motto is 100% cloud, so no on-premise, no installation, no hardware needed to be installed anywhere. Everything is hosted, which for them it's a selling point, but for when you look at competing against them, it does alleviate the on-premise side of things, where if a customer is looking for an on-premise solution at some point, that's where CRM can come into play, because we do have that flexibility of being on-premise as well. So as far as Salesforce, they do have a number of products and services that customers can subscribe to. They have a Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, similar to our three modules within Dynamics CRM. They have a few other kind of add-ons like Desk.com. I think is more like their customer portals for like the support side. The Community Cloud has more like a community aspect. Kind of a portal solution for a community. The Salesforce Chatter is an add-on to basically intercompany chat, kind of similar to what we saw with a little bit we showed with the Yammer yesterday, the ability to talk to each other through the CRM application. So when comparing Salesforce and CRM, you're looking at the customers bringing up the Chatter. You can position Yammer as basically similar functionality, but even some additional functionality where you can access it outside of the CRM application. You can access it on mobile devices. You don't need to be a CRM user to use Yammer. And so those are just some of the things that you can, as we look at Chatter, we have very similar functionality with our Yammer product. Data.com is an additional cost on top of the Salesforce licenses, and it compares very much to our insights that I showed yesterday. Are basically our free solution from Inside View that you get with CRM Online. And so the Data.com does similar things as far as pulling data about companies and getting that updated into their CRM system. And then they do have, like I said, some Marketing Cloud, and then Peridot, I believe, is a little bit on marketing and some analysis stuff too, similar to, if we look at our Dynamics marketing products, we have, their Marketing Cloud, our Dynamics marketing product extends the CRM functionality for the marketing side as well. So, as you look at each of their products, we, at Microsoft have competing components for most of these. The community cloud is probably one where we rely a little bit more on our partner base for external portals and things like that. But as far as sales, service, marketing, you're going to see very similar functionality, or at least concepts anyway, between the products. So when you do get into some deals with Salesforce, what are some of the things you could lead with, or making sure that your customers that you're working with are aware of, or your prospects? And really, user experience. I know Salesforce has either is or has some updates coming, so some of this may change a little bit. But user experience, as we look at some of the demos yesterday that we did, the kind of that process-driven UI, being able to kind of guide a user through the system, take them from a lead to an opportunity, or down to any process that you want on a custom entity. Just some of that experience. Customers really, from what we've talked to, really like that approach. Being able to help to guide that user, train them a little bit easier because it kind of guides them through the system. Salesforce doesn't really have that in some of their versions now, but I think they do. They're kind of copying that design and coming out with something similar to that aspect from some of the screenshots I've seen in the past. From an analytics standpoint, really stress the real-time dashboards, the Power View and Power BI add-ons. If you have customers that, if they like Excel and maybe they haven't really used Power View or the Power Query stuff inside of Excel, that would be one thing to really drive with them is the value they can get with some of the data analysis with Power BI, because you can connect CRM, you can connect other data sources all within that same Excel spreadsheet, and able to kind of really show some great analysis of the data, or basically the data the company has throughout other systems. Salesforce doesn't necessarily, they have connections into Power BI, and Power View can connect to Salesforce data. But one thing with them, it does cost extra because we include some of the Office 365 components in the CRM sales productivity bundle, so you're not paying extra for those. But Salesforce, you would need to pay extra for the Power BI or the Office 365 components. But what else it doesn't have is it doesn't have a dynamic export to Excel where you can refresh the data. And like CRM has, you can export to Excel, you can refresh the data, and kind of keep that connection alive anytime you refresh the data. So another nice point on the analysis side. Some productivity and collaboration components you could talk about are around the Yammer, Skype, and Link integrations. Salesforce has a lack of presence and screen sharing capabilities in the. Obviously their customers could sign up for an Office 365 subscription and get some of the Skype and Link and Yammer, but they're not integrated to the point where you'll see as we go through the demos this week how Yammer and Skype and Link are integrated right in CRM. The choice is another thing, especially like I mentioned this a little bit ago. Having an on-premise option makes it flexible, plus mixing and matching licenses. We mentioned a little bit yesterday on the licenses, we have an enterprise license, professional, and basic. You're not stuck with just one type of license. You can pick and choose between your needs. So if you need 5 enterprise and 20 professional and 100 basic, you could do that and split or basically save on cost based on user role or user type of access to the system. On the trust side, we have, I showed yesterday at the end of one of the first slide decks, we have a Trust Center site that has a bunch of information on all the compliances and regulations that we meet. We offer that 99.9% SLA. Salesforce, obviously they want to be up 100% of the time as well, like we do, but they don't offer a financially backed SLA. So if you have customers that really, that's an important part of their business, and they want that reassurance that they can get reimbursed if something should go wrong, that they have that ability to do that with Microsoft. And then as we look at some of the pricing, as we look at just straight up costs, the different cost levels for our subscriptions, enterprise at $200, and these are at just full regular price, no volume licensing or anything involved right now. But just looking straight up at the initial cost, 200 for enterprise, 65 for professional, 30 for basic, 15 for that essential. If you compare that with Salesforce, their top SKU is at right around 300. Their professional SKU is at 125, and then kind of a light or basic application is at 65. If we kind of compare this, the 125 from Salesforce, as far as product functionality goes, is very similar to the $65 option for Dynamics CRM Online. So you'll see that here in the next coming slides, but as we kind of compare them. But those are kind of the, if you look at just straight up costs, almost half the cost of Salesforce, which, some customers may like that. Some others might ask, well, why are you so much cheaper? There's just, depending on the customer and what they're looking for, definitely a lot of cost savings with Dynamics CRM. My next slide here. There you go. So as we compare the two subscriptions for Salesforce and CRM, as we kind of look down, with that sales productivity offer we have going on right now, and being able to include all that, all our CRM functionality, Office 365, and Power BI together, we have, as we kind of look down the list here, all that's included. The social listening is included. Inside views all included. So basically, you're still sitting at $65 per user per month. As we look down the Salesforce side, this is not including if you purchase Office 365 as well. But if you look down the list there, you then miss out on Link and Skype type integrations. You don't have Power BI. You don't have the native Outlook integration. But then if you want to add on the kind of that customer intelligence, which is similar to our inside view, that is another $125 per user per month. So you're already now at about $250 per user per month. So that just kind of ups the cost there. So that's one thing that we've kind of seen with Salesforce is, as customers are working with them or prospects are working with them, they may not always have upfront all the different costs. Like they charge extra for mobile, they charge extra for the data.com. Not all that may be upfront with what the customer's agreeing for or what they need. So if you're working with some prospects, just make sure that they're aware that there are additional costs that they want to make sure they find out, so they can kind of compare real pricing from our side to the Salesforce side. So just kind of keep that in mind. We do have some Salesforce information on our partner source site. I think this is a little bit older right now, but I know we have a Compete team that's kind of working on updating or getting updated information. So when they do have updated information, they will update it on partner source as well. So continue to check back on partner source for any new Compete information or relevant information around Salesforce. And one more slide here around Salesforce. We kind of drill in a little bit deeper. Again, kind of comparing the cost. This is kind of maybe more for you just to kind of take with you and refer back to it later on. But if we were to look at, we already kind of talked about the pricing and including Office 365 and so forth. But if we go down to the extras, I just kind of want to call it the extras on this slide for right now. With CRM Online, or Dynamics CRM Online, you get 5 gigabytes of storage to start with, and depending on your number of professional users, you may get some additional storage space. But let's just say you have under the 20 professional licenses, and you need more storage. It's $10 per gigabyte per month. So basically, in this scenario, calling out here, if you needed 10 additional gigabytes per month for the year, you'd be basically paying $120 per gigabyte per year for that additional gigabyte. On the Salesforce side, they actually charge $250 per gigabyte per month. So that adds up even more and quicker too, depending on the amount of data you have. And so that, again, just kind of keep in mind for your prospects that there are some additional costs that they may run into that they may not be that well known. So again, just kind of keeping that in mind. And we try to make sure everyone knows, as far as we have it published externally, that extra storage is $10 or basically $9.99 per gigabyte per month. There are some extra fees if you want better support or better response time, I should say, for support. And then if you need additional production copies of your database or sandbox instances, there are additional costs for those. But if you kind of compare those costs versus Salesforce costs for similar things, you'll see we are a lot less expensive, especially when it comes to like another full production instance. 20% of the total subscription can get quite expensive on the Salesforce side. All right, and then you've probably seen this is probably a year and a half or 2 years ago now. Microsoft and Salesforce do have a strategic partnership as well, so it's a little confusing. We're competing against them on the CRM side, but yet we do have some partnerships with them, allowing them to develop on our Office 365 platform and mobile applications and things like that. So you may see at times where it looks like Salesforce and Microsoft are working together, which is some of the cases with some of the Office 365 things, or Azure even. But then on the CRM side, we definitely compete against them with our products. So, but that's kind of one thing I just want to call out, that you may see some of that where we see more Salesforce apps on Windows phones or Windows tablets and things like that. Salesforce has a playbook, so obviously the more you know about the competitor, the better you can compete against them. So there's a link here to kind of a Salesforce playbook that they've published, and so you feel free to check that out if you want. And then I'll just give you more information about Salesforce. We do have some customer success stories of like Salesforce switchers. So the three listed at the top here are public stories that you can download or send the link over to your prospects if they're looking for some examples. And then also there are more stories out there you can search from. They're not all Salesforce switchers, but those are the three I call out there. Are definitely three that have switched over from Salesforce, and we're able to publish a story around that. So. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit here and take a look at Oracle. So Oracle is another top competitor. They're obviously a large company, over 400,000 customers in more than 145 countries, so really spread out. The main thing with Oracle is they have a number of different CRM solutions that they've acquired over the years. And so sometimes we can kind of use this against them a little bit, is, kind of providing, or basically having the prospect kind of wonder, which CRM system is right for them. Is it, Oracle CRM on Demand, or is it Siebel CRM, or if I go with one and I outgrow it, how do I get to the other one? And it ends up being more of a, basically a migration, or basically moving to a whole other platform. And so kind of throwing some of those factors in there, that there are a number of applications that they could choose from there that may or may not fit their business, and maybe one may have some certain functionality and the other one has other things that they need, and so forth. So just kind of throwing that confusion out there. The roadmap isn't really that clear on which system and what is Oracle Sales Cloud the one that they're going with now, or what. So just kind of throwing a little bit of that confusion out there. But similar to when you're competing against Oracle, just like Salesforce, there's some things you can kind of focus in on and call attention to. And the first one that I would do is around high user adoption. We've already kind of talked about that, but if we look at like the Outlook client, our native integration there, the Microsoft Office features, the intuitive UI that you can get within CRM, and kind of that the process flow. And just some of the time-saving features that we have within Dynamics CRM definitely competes well against some of the kind of the user interface or the user adoption story from the Oracle side. Speed to deployment is another area that you can kind of focus in on, or kind of talk to, is with Dynamics CRM Online, faster implementations, lower prices. Customizations can be done quickly, or verticals can be added on very, very seamlessly. We do have an open architecture. Again, kind of going back to our ISVs, there's a lot of ISVs out there providing, third-party add-ons that you can take advantage of, or build some yourself as you're working with your prospects. Again, kind of just like with Salesforce, the power of choice is another huge benefit, where some of the Oracle solutions are online or in the cloud, some are on premise. there isn't really a streamlined process to get between the two. With CRM Online, you could start it online and go to on-premise very seamlessly by just getting a backup of the database and redeploying it on-premise. Strategic clarity would be another area. We kind of just talked about that on the last slide, but just the number of products they have and what's the roadmap. Kind of that confusion can kind of turn some prospects away from looking at Oracle and maybe focusing in back on CRM if that's an importance to them. Application flexibility is another one, and this kind of goes to the customization capabilities. And I know yesterday I did mention we were going to demo a little bit on the customization side, and we kind of ran out of time in the first session. So maybe at the end of today, if we have maybe 10, 15 minutes, I'll kind of jump into some of the customization capabilities. But this is where you can really show the power of CRM. And this, I like to do this sometimes in a demo where you can just take an entity like an account and add some fields, and next thing you know, the fields are already published on the form, or you create a whole new entity and link it to an account. There's just some things there that really demo well, and showing you don't need to be a developer or have a development staff to really customize everything that you want to do with CRM. Upgrades is another one. So basically, with CRM Online, upgrades are handled for you. Basically, we'll roll out the new features and hotfixes and updates. There's no need for any incremental steps there by the end user or by the customer. And so just being able to kind of show that we're not switching applications or having to upgrade to a whole nother system just to get to a higher level or a different functionality. And the last area is around workflow. We didn't really do a whole lot about workflow yesterday, but showing how easily you can build a workflow in the system to send email or update data, update records, whatever it may be, right in the system is another benefit, another quick advantage that CRM has over Oracle. So there's just a few kind of key things there. Again, Oracle has like a marketing cloud and the social cloud similar to Salesforce. And so if you do run into that, we do have Dynamics Marketing that could compete with the Marketing Cloud, kind of adding that on to Dynamics CRM. Or we also have Microsoft Social Listening, now called Social Engagement, that can compete against the Oracle Social Cloud.
Yeah. Oh, just watching a thing, a video conference.
All right, let me get there. All right. So let me get to the next slide here. So let's talk a little bit about SAP, and then we'll kind of get into the SharePoint stuff here. So SAP, again, another large company, over 263,000 customers in almost 200 countries. With SAP, they're probably more known for their ERP solutions. So when it comes to kind of competing against them, we'll probably see more competitive deals against them with like our AX product, or maybe even like an NAV or GP, depending on the size of the customer. But SAP does have a CRM component inside their portfolio. And so we've seen some customers that they'll use SAP for their ERP, but they'll use Dynamics CRM for their actual CRM solution, or just use SAP CRM. So when we compete with SAP, we're actually competing on their CRM solution with ours. But again, they do have a number of products. Depending on the size of the customer, you may run into SAP Business Suite is kind of like their flagship product for large customers over 2,500 employees. SAP Business One is a little bit more on the small enterprise, so the 10 to 100 employees. And then the rest of them, the SAP All-in-One, Business by Design, and On Demand, kind of target that mid-size, small to mid-size business. So with Dynamics CRM, you may run into them more on the small to mid-size businesses, but again, you could hit them in other areas as well. When we look at competing with SAP, here's a few things that we can kind of take a look at. The SAP UI is an older UI, and it's not very intuitive, at least from the feedback we've gotten from some customers that have switched over. And so being able to kind of, again, show the user adoption with Outlook, the interface within CRM, you don't have to switch to a different role to do a certain job. You can basically access that all based on your security permissions that your one user account has in the system. We kind of heard from feedback too in SAP. In order to do some roles, you do have to switch to a different user account, log back in, and then do a role and then log back out, which it seems kind of counterintuitive to time and user adoption there. SAP CRM has very limited repository for reports out of the box. A lot of times they need a kind of a warehouse, a custom warehouse built for BI, and so sometimes it takes a little bit more time to get the reporting out of the system. Where if we come in with showing Power BI integrations right out of the box, charts and dashboards, that again is really key to showing the value of that, especially on the analytics side of CRM. Our native Outlook integration, I already talked about this, but showing that syncing of tasks, appointments, contacts right within Outlook really shows that deep integration with Office and Office 365. We talked about workflows with Oracle, but same thing with SAP, showing the workflow capabilities, the business rule capabilities right in CRM, and some of those quick customization capabilities there. Again, is another value and strength CRM has over SAP. Offline access is, I guess this again goes back to our Outlook client, but having the ability to take data offline is another kind of advantage over SAP. And then our Excel integrations and SharePoint integrations kind of out of the box that we'll start talking about in a little bit here will be another advantage over SAP. Those are just a few things that you can kind of call out, or at least things to at least initially start focusing in on. And then depending on customers' questions, things they have, obviously they can lead to other things there. But those are kind of some of the key things we've gotten from other successful switchers from those products. SAP has been known for long implementation times, and so that would be another strong point with Dynamics CRM. Again, is just a quick deployment, quick POC, proof of concept going. But one thing SAP has done is they have provided these with kind of like a solution template or kind of a getting started or rapid deployment. I think they call them rapid deployment packs. This kind of gets you a set of customizations, kind of similar, you think, to like CRM has ICEs or verticals out there, but these are they're provided by SAP and they're not really that flexible as far as customizations afterwards. So it isn't kind of a one size. It's trying to be a one size fits all, but we know that isn't always the case. So sometimes the customers may be looking at these and like, oh, they have sales performance management, but then they get in there and they don't have the customization capabilities after they've applied that to really meet their business needs. So just kind of keep that in mind, that there are some SAP solutions out there that the customers may be looking at, but they may not always meet the full needs that the customer is looking for. Again, we do have some SAP compete information on Partner Source. From the last time I looked out there, it is a little bit more AX focused, but if we do have any CRM compete information, that's just basically we would be posting it out there as well for partners to access. And then we talked about this slide yesterday, but just again, we do have the sales productivity offer going on until the end of this month, and then that you can take advantage of for some discounts with the licensing. So let me just pause for a second while I switch over to the SharePoint slide deck. The SharePoint slide deck will have a few slides. We'll spend probably most of the time in demo and kind of showing. But are there any questions on the compete side of CRM? I know some of it was kind of high level, but it's kind of get you an idea of what are some areas to kind of focus in on, especially doing demos or answering questions and things that you can kind of bring up with your prospects. I'll switch over to the other deck while, if there is any questions, feel free to use the Q&A pane there. Let me get the agenda here. All right, well, I'm not seeing any questions here, so maybe I'll just go ahead and get started, and then we can just have a little bit longer Q&A time at the end if needed. So, all right, so for the second session of today, we're going to focus in on the integration with Office 365, the SharePoint component in Office 365, how they integrate with CRM Online, and how you actually go ahead and enable them. So what are the requirements to get it enabled? What does the integration look like? What does the functionality look like? And then what customization capabilities do I have with that? So there's some of the things we'll cover throughout the slides and then demo as well. So I'm sure probably most probably are aware or know of SharePoint Online, but for those, just in case, maybe you haven't used it or just haven't had time to focus in on it, SharePoint is basically used for collaboration and knowledge sharing. It does have its own kind of workflow engine that can be used for like kind of an approval process or, basically kind of whatever you need there when it comes to collaboration and kind of document management. Just kind of storing team, have team sites and not kind of a knowledge area within SharePoint. CRM integrates to SharePoint, like I mentioned yesterday, at the document management level. So we're basically using SharePoint for our larger document storage, the documents that need to be collaborated on, and it kind of fits into this kind of scenario here, where maybe Nancy has a document she's working on. She's working on maybe a proposal or a sales pitch here. Instead of just emailing that document around to David and a few others, she can upload that into SharePoint, use the check-in, check-out functionality so they're not overwriting each other's changes, and kind of you can also have some version control. So if Nancy goes in and creates a document and David edits it and maybe messes something up, we can roll back to Nancy's or previous version. You can route for approvals and reviews and basically just kind of share the document. So kind of back to the scenario, Nancy's working on the sales pitch. David can then jump into the document, add some information that is needed, and then together, they've collaborated on this document, and the documents are kind of approved or finalized. It can be used with their for their prospect or their customer they're working with. So that's kind of the scenario that where CRM comes into play. Is you can upload that document through CRM, get others to collaborate with you on it, and kind of have that that one storage location where all your documents are stored for that specific account or that record you're working on. In a kind of a study or survey that was done, this is probably maybe a year or maybe 2 years ago now, that all the implementations that were being done that were implementing Dynamics CRM, 60% of them already had SharePoints in some capacity at the company that they're implementing CRM at. So it just kind of shows the potential to integrate with SharePoint or even kind of get SharePoint in maybe even more usage from the company is a valid scenario when a large number of customers are already using SharePoint, and probably this number may have even increased since then as well with with SharePoint Online growing like it has. This is probably even a higher number of those using SharePoint that are already implementing CRM together. So let's take a look at the integration details a little bit. So there's kind of 3 areas that you can kind of look at integrating SharePoint. There's custom SharePoint apps. So if you're a developer or had developer resources, you could develop SharePoint apps that could connect to CRM Online, pull data from there, display data maybe in SharePoint or basically within the app that you're building. This is, as far as customization capabilities, it's a little bit more on the difficult side because you do need the developer resources to do it, and it is entirely based on custom coding in order to do that. The second component there is the BCS capabilities within SharePoint, and so with that, again, it does take some custom coding and some server configuration in order to get CRM data into SharePoint and just kind of displaying it maybe on a web part or in a list or a list within SharePoint. But again, that is a little bit more on the difficult side, again, needing custom code. But those capabilities are there. So for a development standpoint, you can still customize and integrate CRM and SharePoint from a custom SharePoint app or BCS side. But what we're going to talk about today is the server-side synchronization, kind of what's available right out of the box, where it's more kind of point-and-click configuration without needing to be a developer or have developer resources. This is basically going to be from CRM Online, actually I think the next slide talks about that, but from CRM Online to CRM Online, and then with the latest update, we do have a capability to go from CRM Online to SharePoint on-premise, and that will be changing even more in the next release, where we kind of have plans to allow the on-premise to on-premise and on-premise to SharePoint Online, on-premise CRM to SharePoint Online. But we'll go ahead and go through some of that just kind of set up here in a minute. The basically the server-side integration initially started was only available with CRM Online to SharePoint Online, and this does require that Office 365 subscriptions basically are in the same tenant. So your Office 365 and your CRM subscription are within that same tenant. They can't be separated across different tenants, different logins. They need to be within that same subscription there. Like I did mention, we do have the capability now to do the server-side integration with CRM Online to SharePoint on-premise. I updated the slide, but I mostly updated one got updated here. But so this one should say server-side integration as well. But still the same requirements are that there are some additional steps you do need to enable SharePoint in your same subscription, and then you can use that to connect or kind of do some of the authentication to your on-premise SharePoint. So there's a little bit more setup involved to do the on-premise side there, but it does still require a subscription of SharePoint within Office 365. Before we had the server-side integration, we basically supported what we called client-side, where you had a solution file that you would upload into SharePoint, and that would allow you then to, with your CRM user's credentials, allow you to access CRM and SharePoint together. There were some problems with that, where if you weren't logged into SharePoint in that browser session, you would have to get logged into SharePoint before you could seamlessly access the data over there, or the files. And so really with the server-side integration, it's just really streamlined the process, as well as made it a lot easier and user-friendly for a user to log into CRM, go right to the documents area and see the documents without any additional login prompts or any issues like that. So the server-side integration is the kind of the now and the future of the integration with SharePoint. The client-side one is kind of being deprecated because SharePoint is also deprecating some of their solution options within the product. So we kind of basically have to move to the server-side integration, which is a plus for us because it makes it a lot more streamlined and a lot better interface. So just a quick look at the differences before we get into the setup. At the client-side integration looked more like a kind of an iframe right within CRM. So you can still kind of see that, it looks like SharePoint, or there's SharePoint functionality there. It doesn't really look like it's natively built into CRM. On the server-side integration, we actually have capabilities that are CRM related and SharePoint related, all within the same grid. And so it does look like you're in CRM. It does look like everything is uploaded to CRM, but it is actually SharePoint in the background there. And we'll take a look at that in the demo. So how do I go ahead and get the SharePoint integration configured? What are some of the options that I need to do to basically enable this? And there's really kind of a two-step process. The first step is enabling server-based integration. And then the second step is setting up the document management settings. So what do you want to enable for document management? And then the last step is mainly just the usage, like going into the record and uploading documents. So it's really kind of a two-step setup, and each of those steps has a few kind of sub-steps within them that we'll talk about. So to enable the server-based integration, there's a couple places you can launch it from, and I'll show that when I jump into my organization here. But once you get to the wizard, all you really need is the SharePoint URL that you're going to connect to, and we'll actually then go ahead and validate that URL. And if it is a valid URL, meaning it is a SharePoint Online URL, it's within the same tenant, you can the system can log into or not log into, but can access that URL. Basically, it does a few checks to make sure everything is valid. If it is valid, it will go ahead and enable the server-based integration. And once that's enabled, then the second step is to actually go ahead and set up the document management functionality. And this is where we will go ahead and basically launch a little wizard that will allow us to pick which entities we want to enable for document management, because maybe we don't want all the CRM entities to have documents stored in them. Maybe we just want accounts, contacts, leads, and opportunities. Or in maybe cases, we could go ahead and enable just those entities. And then we have an option to choose how we want this folder structure to look in SharePoint. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually get into the demo. But you have a couple options there as far as how you want it to be stored. All right, so let me see if I can get my desktop shared here. And it's the CRM. All right, so here I am logged into CRM. The first time you log into an organization, you usually get a few notifications up at the top here. One might be, click here to download the Outlook client, or you have users that don't have roles assigned yet, so you can go ahead and do that. But one of the messages that you'll see is to enable server-based SharePoint integration. So I could click on Enable now here, and that'll launch me right into the wizard. Or what I could do is, if you're not seeing that yellow message, I can go ahead and drop down and go to Settings, and then go to Document Management. And then within Document Management, I do have the option here to enable server-based SharePoint integration. So both of these links take me to the same location. So let's go ahead and click on that. So the first page comes up, gives me a little bit more information. That there's no list component. Basically, no solution needs to be installed in SharePoint. I'm just basically going to set up the kind of the authentication here. And the reason it's kind of called server-based integration is we're actually using CRM and a SharePoint are actually talking to each other on the back end. So all the authentication is happening server side. So as SharePoint trusts CRM and CRM makes a request to SharePoint, CRM will basically pass along the user's credentials to SharePoint just so we can still validate that they have access to that SharePoint site, and that the permissions allow them the right permissions to upload documents and stuff. So we're still accessing SharePoint as that user, so making sure that we have the right credentials, but the server is doing the authentication, so we don't have any additional prompts or issues with that. So let me hit next here. And so the first option I get is online or on-premise. And so this is where, like I said, this was just added within the last release, or the 2015 release. And so you could connect to an on-premise SharePoint server. There are some requirements that you'll need to follow in order to set up kind of a hybrid approach for hybrid authentication. And it does require at least one license of SharePoint Online in order to kind of configure that. So kind of getting that hybrid approach together. But for this scenario, since we're kind of covered on focusing in on the online side, I'm just going to choose online for now. When I go ahead and click on next here, it's going to ask me for my SharePoint URL. I can go ahead and type that in, but just for the sake, in case you don't know where your SharePoint URL is, let me just go back out to my Office 365 admin portal. And from here, I'm just going to scroll down, and under the admin area, I'm just going to go into SharePoint. And once this comes up, I'm going to get a list of all my SharePoint site collections. And I created this one last night just so I had a brand new site to connect to. But you can see here, here's my main SharePoint site, just crmptcdemo.na.sharepoint.com. So all we're really looking for that enabling the server-based authentication is just a URL to SharePoint. It could be the main one. It could be one of your subsites. It doesn't necessarily matter as long as it's part of this same subscription. So just to kind of show you here, I'm just going to grab my main SharePoint site. I'm just going to put this in here. And we'll go ahead and hit next. This is actually going to do a validation to make sure it is a valid site. It is in the same subscription and so forth. It comes back and says it is valid. One point I want to make for those that maybe have used our older SharePoint integration in the past with CRM Online and SharePoint Online, you may have a number of sites that you've connected to. So maybe you do have a couple of online sites and then maybe even an on-premise site. If any of those sites are not valid or it can't validate those, it will fail and it won't let you enable the server-based integration until you have all the absolute URLs validated. So like an on-premise one, you either need to remove it or use the on-premise option for setting this up. You can't have kind of the both approach under one authentication. So that's more for like kind of an upgrade scenario or someone that's already been using it. Someone that's new, you'll just need to put in a URL and get that validated, and then click Enable. Once it's enabled, it basically just gives you a little congratulations message, but then it does give you a link down here to the document management settings. So this is that second wizard that we need to access. So you could launch it from here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit Finish and just kind of show you where you can launch it from within CRM. So here I'm back in CRM. You'll notice that option to enable server-based integration is gone. I don't have that listed anymore. The message right now still shows up just because I haven't refreshed the page, but I'll just go ahead and close that out for now. So what I could do then is I need to do that second step of enabling the document management settings. So if I didn't click the link from that last wizard to launch the second wizard, I can just come in here, again, go to Settings, Document Management, and then go to Document Management Settings. So as I come into here, again, I'm going to have a list of my entities that I can choose to select for my document management integration. I can come back in here anytime and add things later on. So if I were to enable this now and decide, oh, maybe I wanted cases and some other stuff later on, I could come back in here and check some of the properties and then just kind of run through this wizard again. The site URL down here that it's asking for, this is going to be the automatic folder creation setting. So one thing you may remember yesterday when I was going into CRM, I tried to create a new folder, even though I got an error message based on my connection there. But basically what this automatic folder creation is going to do is this is where it'll create the folder structure for the document libraries it starts to create. And so you can basically point it to a site that you have that you want that folder structure to be created on. And for this, I'm going to go back to my SharePoint site, and this is where I'm going to at least grab this one for this wizard, because this is the new site I set up, or I could point it to an existing site if I wanted to. But just to make things a little cleaner, I'm just going to go to a new site that I have here. And let's just go ahead and paste that in. So here I have my sub-site off my main site. I'll go ahead and hit Next. It will do a validation again to make sure that this is a valid SharePoint site and it's able to create folders on that location. And then you have one more option before we kind of finish configuring this, and it's called Based on Entity. And so this basically, if this was turned off, what will happen is when I create a record in CRM and then I basically enable a document management folder on that record, it'll create it. And let's just say I do this on an account record. There'll be a folder called Account, and then under the account would be the account name, and then in the account name would be all the files for that account. So that's fine. That works pretty well for if you don't want to have anything structured underneath it. But where this comes into play is now if I go to an opportunity record for that account, and I create a document folder for that opportunity, that'll be under another folder called Opportunity with the opportunity name and then the files under that. So it's kind of separated. So me personally, I like to check this box and then choose Account, because what this will do for me is the account will still be similar. It'll have the account folder name, the account name, and then have the files. But what this will do for the opportunity or for cases or for any related objects, it'll keep it within the account folder under the account name, and then it'll just have an entity name called opportunity or cases or whatever is related, and then have the files under there. because what this will do then is it'll roll everything up and allow me to see everything for this account in one view. And so I personally like this option better versus leaving it unchecked. And I'll show that structure here too once we get into using the folders. But so I like to check that and choose account. You could do it under a contact if maybe a customer system is all revolving around individuals versus the companies. You could do it based on the contact, but for probably 90% of the time, you're probably going to want to use account. So as I hit next there, that's going to go ahead and enable the document management. And okay, so basically document libraries are going to be created. So what this is going to do is it's going to create even though I chose to basically have everything under the account, it still initially creates each of these folders because that's the folders that we told it to create. But basically these bottom 7 here, bottom 7 are really not going to be used. Everything's going to be kind of tucked under the account as long as it's tied to an account. If I have maybe a case that isn't tied to an account, maybe it's just tied to a contact, then it would still be under this folder. But for the most part, everything should be under the account when we start looking at it here. It shows 8 successful, 8 newly created. If you already had a folder of this name, it would just use that folder. So you can reuse existing folders if they were already there. So let me just let's go ahead and go into that SharePoint site just to kind of quickly see the folder structure that got set up. So if I go under my site contents, you'll see here I have some folders now: account, article, opportunity, quote, product. Those are the ones that we had checked by default in the document management area. And so we'll start to see these being used here once we start going through the application. All right, let me go back. So that's kind of basically all it takes really to enable the SharePoint integration and then the document settings. So again, pretty quick and painless, just a few clicks through some wizards. Let me go back to my slide deck for a second, and then we'll come back and kind of show the some usage scenarios there. Okay, the next slide here. I do have in the slides the screenshots of kind of the wizard we just walked through, so I'm just going to kind of skip through that real quick here. So integration look and feel. So this is what we'll kind of demo next, but there's a number of things you can do. Now that we have the SharePoint integration enabled, we can start uploading documents from CRM or from SharePoint. We can check in, check out. There's a number of things I'll kind of show here during the demo. But the nice thing too is creating documents on the fly. I can create Excel, OneNote, PowerPoint, and Word all right within Word Online, Excel Online, and so forth. Basically, the Office Online products. One thing to call out that we do have kind of a size limit as far as what you can upload through CRM. And right now, we are utilizing the attachment file size setting in CRM. So if you have your file attachment size, and this really comes into play where if you're uploading attachments into CRM or tracking emails that have attachments, we don't upload attachments larger than a certain size that you have configured. But we also use that setting for the uploading of SharePoint documents. There's been talks about splitting them out because they are 2 separate things, and sometimes you do need to upload larger documents than you would want attachments. But right now, just to note that they are the same. So if you have larger documents, you could increase the file attachment size, noting that it could have a reverse impact on your users are tracking email, and if an email has a 10 megabyte attachment and you've increased this to 10 megabytes, that 10 megabyte attachment will be stored in the CRM database and taking up that size. So more than likely, you're probably going to leave this at a lower number like it is today. I think it's at 5 megabytes is the default. And then if you do have larger file sizes you do need to upload, you can upload them through SharePoint, but still access them through CRM. So just kind of one point to call out or note that you may run into some of the file size limitation. And then on the customization side, I'll also do some of this in the demo, is you can, from the SharePoint aspect, you can add custom fields, custom custom columns that can store data, and we can pull those into CRM to kind of show the data. We can't really modify it or change it from CRM, but at least it's a way to view some additional information about that document from the CRM side. The one thing, and I'll kind of call this out too again when we kind of show the demo here, CRM has different field types, like there's single line of text, multi-line, whole numbers, dates, pick lists, currency. There's a number of different fields within CRM. Similar to SharePoint, SharePoint has a number of fields: single line of text, numbers, dates, choices, calculated fields, and whatever it may be. The one thing as we go through the customizations you want to keep in mind is if you have a SharePoint field that's maybe displaying a date, and you create a field in CRM that's a whole number, you're thinking will display that date, obviously that's going to cause an error because the file format types are completely different. One thing I've kind of found, or one thing I usually do if I'm doing customizations like this, is the single line of text option in CRM can display any of the SharePoint fields that you want to display in CRM. And since we're not storing the data in CRM and we're not really modifying the data in CRM, having a string field is probably the best option, or basically a text field is the best option to display and not worry about any issues you may have going on with data coming over and being in the wrong format or something like that. But we'll talk about that a little bit more here as I jump back over to my demo. So let's take a quick look at some of the usage scenarios here. So I'm going to go ahead and just go over to my account data, and let's go ahead and pull up the AdventureWorks account. So within this account here, I'm not sure my screen is a little slow there. All right. So within the account here, I'm just going to drop down the menu, and again, just like yesterday, this is the sub menu of other items that are related to this account. I can go ahead and click on Documents. That's going to take me into this area where it says,
Please pardon the interruption. Your conference contains less than 3 participants at this time. If you would like to continue, press *1 now, or the conference will be terminated.
All right, I see that. I might just have to hang that up. No one's using the call bridge, but all right. So we have the create a folder option. Since there isn't a folder yet for AdventureWorks, since we just enabled this, there's nothing in SharePoint. I can go ahead and hit confirm. That's going to go ahead and create a folder for me out in SharePoint, and then it's going to basically return that folder, and now I should have the capabilities now to upload documents, create new documents, and so forth. If we just take a quick look at SharePoint, I can either click on Open SharePoint, or let's just, since we're already out here, I can just go in, click on Account, and now here's my account folder that just got created. The one thing you will note, or you'll see here, is the folder name is the same name as the account, but also has the GUID of the account. Now, the reason we do this is because if you have multiple accounts in the system, like let's just say I have 2 AdventureWorks sample accounts, and I enable both of them for document storage, it would actually use the same folder, whether you want to or not, because it's going to base it on the name. So the GUID does make sure it is unique. However, if you're working with a customer or your own internal deployment, and you know that, hey, we don't have any accounts that are going to have the same name, we don't want the GUID to show up, you can turn that functionality off so it doesn't use the GUID. Just to note that you could use, if you had duplicate accounts, it could use the same folder. So there's a way to turn that off. And if anyone needs that, there is a KB article on how to do that, but I can definitely send that out as a follow-up after. So let me just close this here for now. Let's go to back to CRM here. So here I have my account. I have the folder. If I want to create a new document on the fly, let's just create a proposal. Hopefully this will work better than it did yesterday. I think yesterday I had some issues with the record I was on. So what this should do now is it should launch me into Word Online, assuming maybe it won't do that for me. Okay, so maybe I'm still running into an issue here. Basically what should happen and what's worked for me in the past is being able to create these on the fly. Let me just make sure I don't have any other issues here. Okay, for some reason Word Online isn't working for me. Maybe something in my subscription or an issue with my online site right now. But so here I just did a Excel document on the fly. It opens up in Excel Online. I can start putting information in here, pricing, whatever I need to do for the proposal. Everything's auto-saved, so I can just go ahead and close this. If I go back to CRM, here's my proposal. It's in the system, and it's also basically uploaded to SharePoint. I can see the location of where this is stored over here in the location area. Again, obviously with the GUID making it a little bit longer, but I can see it's in my AdventureWorks sample folder and then the name of the file. This will come into play a little bit more here once we do an opportunity. So let's go ahead and let's go back into my account here. I'm going to create an opportunity for this account. Let's just do, and let's just save this. And I'm going to go ahead and go into that opportunity. Now, as I'm working on this opportunity, again, I may have some documents that are specifically for this opportunity that I want to store on the opportunity and not just in the account record. So same thing goes, I can come in here and I can drop down, I can click on documents. It's going to go out and check to say, oh, hey, you don't have a folder yet, do you want me to create one? But one thing you'll notice here with this message is the folder location of where it's going to be created. It's going to be created under the account folder, under AdventureWorks sample with the long GUID, under the opportunity folder, under that, under the name of the opportunity. So obviously your opportunity names are important for uniqueness. But so if I did, just new opportunity, again, it does have the GUID. That way it is a little bit more unique. But again, it does make it a little bit longer pass. So you could, like I said, you can turn that off. I'll go ahead and hit confirm here. And then I'm going to upload a quick document here. Browse out and see if I can find, let me just grab something. Oh, just grab this here. And I'll upload that. Excuse me. Let me just close this window. I keep bouncing that one. Okay, so now I have this uploaded on my opportunity, and I don't see any other files right now. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to jump back over to my account record. And I just want to show you now what the documents area looks like on my account. So the account had one proposal document before and didn't have anything else, but now that I've uploaded an opportunity for this account and that opportunity has documents, you'll notice that we actually roll up all that information into the account. So from the reason I like that option for based on entity and then choosing account is because I can now from the account record see files that are in on my opportunities or in my cases or anywhere else that's related to this account. And then this is where the location kind of comes into play here. I can make that a little bit bigger. Is I can see that this file is under the AdventureWorks sample folder, and this one is actually in an opportunity folder. So I can still see where it's located at. But over here, this kind of hides the folders for me and just shows me all the relevant documents that I may want to access when I'm working with this account. So that's one thing nice about having that roll-up functionality there. If I were to leave that checkbox unchecked back when I was setting up the document management settings and not choose based on entity, I would not be able to see this here. I would have to go into the opportunity. It's like I would have to be back here. I would have to go into the opportunity to find that document. And maybe that's the way some prospects or customers would want it. So that they do have the option to do that. If I go back just 1 second back to documents to show a couple other usability things here. We created this location initially for these files. You can add a location. So if you wanted to add a location, maybe you're working with this account and you have some documents that are more private or more just for managers or just for a different set of sales folks. You could have a SharePoint location that's maybe a little more secured and only a few people have access to that. So you could add that location here by adding in the link to that folder. If someone else tried to get to that or click on that, they wouldn't be able to open that up because they wouldn't have permissions to that location in SharePoint. So we respect SharePoint's security. We don't touch it or don't manage it at all. That is done on the SharePoint side. If you don't have access to a folder, like maybe this opportunity folder, I locked down to just a few sales folks, this file would not be shown here in this list if I did not have access to it. And then the other option is I can edit SharePoint or open SharePoint from here. If I select a document, that gives me some new options here where I can edit, delete, check in, check out. If I want to make changes to this document, or I can open it up right in Word Online or Excel Online, and then I have discard, checkout, and so forth. So similar SharePoint functionality that you would have if you were in SharePoint. The one thing that you don't have that I've seen a few people that want it is the ability to download a copy. That one isn't here. I mean, obviously you can open up this document, save as, and save it somewhere else. Or you could just quickly go out to SharePoint. And when you're out in SharePoint, you would have full access to all the library and options here where I could download a copy, alert me if this changes type functionality. So again, you would have access to all that right in SharePoint. All right, so that's a little bit on the usage side of things. Actually, if I upload a document from the SharePoint side, let me just grab Excel one here. And I go over to CRM and just kind of refresh this. It pops in right away. Just as long as I have a refresh or come to that, it's going to, no matter where I upload it from, it'll show up in both locations. So let's do this. I'm going to be over in SharePoint now, and I'm going to add some fields because maybe we have an approval process that we need to track, and basically a document needs to be approved before it can be sent to a customer. So let's go ahead and let me jump back out to my site contents here. So within SharePoint, there's a few ways that you can customize a field. I could go right into my account area and add a field, and it would only be available on the account or the account folder. Or I could go to my basically my site settings and add a custom field there. So let me just add basically a new site column. A site column means it can be added to any folder basically within the site. Let me just go ahead and hit create here. And I'll just do approval date. And this one will be a date time. And then, let's see, I don't think I need anything else there. Let me just hit OK. And then let me add one more field. Let's do approval date. And then let's do approval status. And this one could be a choice field. And then I'm going to add a couple choices here. So let's see. Need approval pending or something, and then let's just do approved. All right, so I got three options there, and then hit OK. So now I've added two fields in SharePoint. Let's go ahead and let's get those added to my account folder. So I want to basically make sure that they're available on my account. So here I can go to settings, and as I'm on the settings here, if I scroll down, you can see there is the option to create a column, and I can just create one right on the fly, or I can say add from an existing site column, and so this is where I can then pull in those custom fields on any entity that I'm working, or any area that I'm working on in SharePoint. So I'm going to grab approval date and approval status, move them over, and so now if I go over to my site contents and go into my account, I have my two new fields here, approval date, approval status. Let's go ahead and actually go into the folder. And on this proposal, let's go ahead and edit this in SharePoint. All right, sorry, not edit, edit property. Well, sorry, my mouse is a little jumpy. let's do edit the properties. And so from here, it's the approval date. Maybe we need this approved by Friday, and it's maybe pending approval right now. So let's hit save. And so though that information is showing up in SharePoint right now, if I go back over to CRM and I refresh this, I don't really have anything over here right now that will show me that information. So I don't know if this document's been approved or what without going out to SharePoint. Well, let's go ahead and change that. Let's go ahead and get some of that information over here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into settings, and I'm going to go to customizations, and then customize the system. And this will also show a little bit about how easy it is to customize CRM that we can touch on a little bit later too if we have some time. So here I have a list of all our entities that are customizable, or has some may be, some may not be customizable, but you'll see that as you get into them. But it basically lists all the entities in the CRM system. If I scroll all the way down here, I'm going to find an entity called SharePoint Documents. I go ahead and select that and go to, just to go down to the fields. Also we'll click here, down the fields, there we go. So here, what I need to do is I need to create some fields that can basically show that information. We're not going to store the data in CRM, so it's not going to increase the database size. We're just using these to actually show the information. So I'm going to click on New, and there's two key points. I already kind of called out one as far as the data type. The other one is the actual name of the field. So if I just did something like this and just said status, if I can spell, that won't match anything in SharePoint unless there is a status field already in SharePoint, and it won't bring in my approval status. So I do need to make sure I have it, the display name, exactly how it's displayed in SharePoint. And then here's where I could pick the data type. And the approval status was just a pick list field. So technically I could add a pick list field in here, but really I just displaying the data. So I'm just going to use basically a text field to display it. I'm just going to hit save and new so I can create one more new field in CRM here. And this one will be the approval dates. And again, I could use date field here, but I'm just going to use the text field because I found that's the easiest and the most reliable to display the data consistently. But again, you could use a date field if you wanted. So now I have those fields added. If I scroll down here, I have my two new fields. In order to really see them in SharePoint, I need to add them to a view. Or sorry, in order to see them in CRM from SharePoint, I need to add them to a view in CRM. So here I have a few different views that are available to me. I could go to the all SharePoint documents, the associated view, or I could create my own view if I wanted to. But just for the sake of time, I'll just go ahead and go into an existing one. And let's go ahead and click on Add Column. And we have our approval date, our approval status. And if we want to make the column a little bit wider so it displays all the content, you can just double click on it and change the pixels there for the width. Hit Save and Close. And now I'm just going to, you can hit Publish All Customizations, or the other option is just to select the one entity you want to publish. That way, if you're doing customizations in other parts and you don't want them published yet, you can select just one area or one entity, and then come over here, and once my screen refreshes here, I'll be able to click on the Publish option, which is just the single publish of that entity. So while that's publishing, I'm going to go ahead and we'll jump back over to the application here. I'll go back to Accounts and go back into AdventureWorks. Now, if this is working right, what I should be able to see is on my documents here. So pull that up. And here, I have the associated view as the default one that's showing up. So right away as it shows up, it has the approval date and the approval status. And now it pulls that information in from SharePoint. So if I were to go back out to SharePoint, and let's just make a quick change to the properties. And let's just change this. Maybe we're going to move this to next Friday. Hit save. By coming to CRM and just hit refresh, notice that basically picks up that change instantly. So it does make a call back out and pulls back any new information. The one thing we don't have yet, and I'm hoping that this would get added eventually, is in CRM, if you select a file, it does have that edit properties option of the dialog, but it does not let you do custom fields yet. It just has the title and the name. So one hopefully a feature that will be added soon is the ability to now be able to edit the approval date and approval status from the CRM side. But right now you have to go to the SharePoint side to modify the status. We're just viewing the data that's there. So that's just a little look at being able to customize the look and feel of the SharePoint documents area, pulling data in from SharePoint, and taking advantage, or at least seeing now that, hey, I shouldn't send this proposal yet because it's not approved, and I can quickly see that information. All right, let me jump back to my slides. I think that was it for that one, and the next little small component is the OneNote integration that we'll talk about. So the OneNote integration was added. Actually, before I do that, let me see. There's a couple questions here. So a quick question, doesn't the GUID cause a problem with max file path in SharePoint? I haven't seen it cause a problem yet. I'm not sure what the number is, but really the GUID, there should only be, as I think about this, right, there should only be a maximum of 2 GUIDs per file path, because you'll have the account GUID and you'll have the opportunity GUID or the case GUID. That would be just that one path. Each of the other documents would have their own path as well. So technically, the 2 GUIDs would be, I think they're 32 characters or 36 characters apiece. So you're roughly looking at 64 to 70-ish, 72 characters long. So yeah. So with that, yeah. Thank you, Daniel. So 256 is the character limit. So if you take this, roughly 70 away from that, you're left with 180-ish characters to work with for file names and stuff like that. So technically, you could probably run into that. I haven't seen that as a common problem, but that definitely a good point to call out there. That's maybe one reason why you want to turn that GUID off. So a little bit about the OneNote integration is. Again, it does require that you have the SharePoint integration set up. You don't have to be using the document management for everything, but you would need it enabled for the areas you want to use the OneNote integration, because that's where we actually store the OneNote files. And what you'll see here in the screenshot, and we'll show this kind of in the demo too, is the corresponding areas or sub areas in the OneNote in CRM links to a certain tab in OneNote. So you can quickly get to, if you have implementation notes or meeting notes or, whatever it is you need to get to, you can get right to that location quickly in your OneNote file. So again, the requirements is that it is CRM Online only at this point. So this was just released in Update 1 for CRM 2015. So it is not available for on-premise. And it does require that you have SharePoint Online integration enabled, and document management must be enabled as well. We'll get into the demo here shortly to show the OneNote integration enabled area. Again, that's just a bunch of checkboxes here. So under the document management area, and we'll do this in the demo as well, you probably already noticed when we were in there, it showed OneNote integration. So in the OneNote integration, it just pops up a list similar to what you saw with the SharePoint, where you select a bunch of entities, but you can only select the entities that have been enabled for document management. So that's why you see a shorter list here in the screenshot. Another way to enable them, it's kind of nice to go right into the OneNote integration settings and enable a bunch at one time. But as you're creating new entities, or maybe you're working on the account or contact entity in the customization area, you can enable document management and OneNote integration all right within the properties of that entity, or disable it as well. So you could do that from an entity level perspective, but it's much easier to do it from here if you have a bunch of them you want to enable at one time. All right, so let me switch over to the demo again here. And so we'll start by going back to our settings, document management, and then you'll see we have the OneNote integration over here. So if I click on OneNote integration, simply by default it has a few things enabled for me, but maybe I want to add it to cases or a custom entity. I could go ahead and do that as long as it was enabled for document management. So I go ahead and hit finish there. Let me just go ahead and close some of my other windows here that are taking up the space there. All right. So now that the OneNote integration is enabled for certain entities, let's go ahead and go back to our account that we were working with. So in AdventureWorks here, we'll go ahead and you'll notice right on the main screen, we kind of mentioned this briefly yesterday, you have your posts or Yammer once Yammer is integrated, activities, notes, and OneNote. If I click on OneNote here, since this is the first time I'm clicking on it, it's actually going and creating a OneNote file for me in the AdventureWorks location. And right now it just names it as entitled or untitled. So I can click on that and that'll launch me right into OneNote. And I can come in here and I can start adding more sections or more pages depending on what you want to do. So if I add another page, this is going to be with inside this section. But let's do, we have an implementation notes as we implement CRM for this customer. And maybe we have some, maybe there's some pre-sales notes that we need to keep separate. So as I start adding those different sections, you'll see back here, if I just kind of refresh this, it's going to pull those in, and now if I click on implementation notes, it'll take me right to that section in that OneNote file, and I can start adding them. And obviously, yes, I need to get some data content in here, but I have access to any of these areas. And the other thing you can see here, back on the documents, is it should have the OneNote file as it pulls in. There, so there's my OneNote file and each of the sub files for that, so I can get access to it from here as well. But it's nice, simply stored in the OneNote area within CRM. All right, so yeah, so that's pretty much about it for the OneNote integration. Pretty simple, just if you already have the document management enabled, it's just a matter of clicking on OneNote and having that provision the documents, and then you can start adding in notes there. One advantage, like we mentioned yesterday, there are the notes options here, so I could add in some notes on my record, but you have to be a CRM user and have access to this record in order to see those notes, where the OneNote files could be shared with others throughout the company that may not be in CRM at all, or may not be in CRM that much, so they can then take advantage of that. Just close some of those. And let me go back to my content here. All right, so that pretty much ends the SharePoint section for what we had to cover today. We do have a little bit more time, so I could jump into a little bit more on the customization side, but before that, I just want to see, are there any other questions with SharePoint, with the complete information, or with anything we did yesterday? Feel free to put those in. Let me pull up, I'm going to pull up the poll slides for this session, just real quick, just so we get those before people start dropping off. And then I can go ahead and do a little bit of customization demo that we didn't have time for yesterday. So any technical issues with today's call? Hopefully, I didn't see too many emails this time as far as audio issues, so hopefully that everything was good. And then we'll do the last poll here. Thanks for that. The last one is kind of experience for the session today. Did it meet your needs? Or is what you're looking for? And if not, let me know. We can see if we can get more info to you as well. So, all right, thank you for voting there. And then any questions, feel free to start using the Q&A pane. All right, thank you for voting there. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to my desktop while you guys are thinking of some questions. let me just do just a couple more things in the customization area, just since I didn't get a chance to do that yesterday. If you do need to drop off or have other commitments, feel free to. I'm still recording this. Let's go ahead and go into customize the system. And then we'll just go to our account entity, and then let's just go ahead and go to the forms and just kind of show you some form customizations. This is kind of the longer way to get here just because I went into the customization area and went to a specific entity. If I was right on a record and I have customization privileges, let's just say I'm looking at this account here and I'm looking at it, I'm like, hey, I would like to add some additional fields to this form. I can go right from here and click on form. Now it also launched the account form that I want to modify. So there's a couple ways to get there depending on where you're at in the application. I'll go ahead and jump into the account here. And then from here, I can go ahead and basically it is just a drag and drop editor. So I can click, drag and drop. I can use my arrow keys to move things around. If there's fields that are already within the system that are just not on the form by default, you can double click those or drag them into a certain section on the form and kind of move them around. So very easy, intuitive interface there. If you want to kind of change the layout of the forms, maybe you don't like the 3-column, or you want to do a 3-column and have some 2 columns below it, or whatever you need. There are some options in the insert area up here where you can pull in. Maybe I want to do a 3-column tab that all the columns are the same size. Maybe I have a lot of fields people need to fill in real quick. And then in there, I could have different sections. So maybe I could even have a 2-column section inside of a 3-column tab in case I have some, really maybe some checkbox fields or something very small I want to fit in there. Or I could do, basically back here, do a 1-column tab with a 4-column section. So there's many different ways you could kind of lay out the forms, and then you can just basically start dragging stuff into those areas, however you want for them to look. As you're looking through the list of fields, there may be fields that you need that aren't available, that you just need to create new. So there's a new field option right here. And we've already kind of showed this a little bit with the SharePoint demo. If I click on new field, again, I can, maybe this is a account code or something like that. So I can give it a name. I can make this make it required, business recommended, meaning it just has like a little blue plus sign by it, but it doesn't hard code it or basically make it recommended during the setup or the creation of the record. Or I can make it business required, so it's always required to fill in. As I come down here, again, I have all the different options for different data types. So if I want to do an option set where I have like a pick list, I can start adding the items here and giving them names. So this could be option A, option B, option C, etc. Or if there's already an existing option set in the system that I want to reuse, I could reuse one of those or create my own new option set. If you create a global option set, this can be used across any entity within the system. It makes it a lot easier to manage. You have one list of records to manage versus multiple lists throughout different entities. You could also do calculated fields. Like if I do a whole number, I could do a simple whole number where I just store a number value, or I can actually make it a calculated field where I actually have the ability to do multiplication, add, subtract, date, time operators and some things like that, or concatenate operations. Those are available as a calculated field. Calculated fields are not stored in the database. They're done on the fly. The other option is a roll-up field. Roll-up field is similar to a calculated field, but what this does is it would allow you to, a scenario I like to use this in is I'm on the account record. I have a bunch of opportunities that have some estimated value, and I want to roll up the estimated value of all those opportunities for this account into one field on the account record. So I get a list of here's what the potential revenue for my opportunities, or maybe take kind of the other aspect and say I want to see all the closed revenue we have for this account and show that in one field. So a roll up will roll all those values up into one field and kind of show you that and store that data on that CRM record. So you do have some other options for your fields for simple calculated or rollup. And the other option I just want to mention quick is lookup. So you can create a lookup field in CRM. So maybe instead of doing a calc, maybe I want this to be, maybe there's a primary contact, but maybe there's also a secondary contact. Let me just rename this that you want to list on your account record. Because you can have a bunch of contacts listed, but maybe you actually want to have two fields, one with the primary that's already on the form by default, and here's a secondary contact. Well, then I can just go ahead and I can choose the contact entity, and just by doing that, I'm going to have a lookup now on my form that will have a lookup to the contact entity. Okay, so let me just save and close this real quick. Let me just scroll down here. Now this should be available on the right-hand side. Here's my secondary contact. Let me just find a spot here to put that. Actually, I'll put it right underneath the primary contact. And let me just do save, publish. And if we go look at this on the account, let me just refresh my account form. Once it's done publishing here, I should be able to get into my account. There we go. All right, so on the account form here, up on the right-hand side, I should have, once my screen refreshes, let me just refresh it. So I might have went there too quick. And let's go back in here, accounts, and go to account record. I should have my custom field now here up on the top right. So there's my primary contact that's already listed. Notice my secondary contact, same functionality. It's got that lookup. So I could click on there. I could start typing. I'm trying to think of some names I have. Let me just hit the drop down here. So if I just start typing, if I start typing Jim and tab off, it'll do like an auto resolve. To it, or I can go ahead and select and look from a list or look up more records and just kind of get that native lookup functionality. Maybe I need to look up all and find a record. But basically, just by doing that, I just created a relationship between the account and the contact, and being able to display that right within the form. So customization, this is kind of going back to the compete information. Some of these, if your customers are looking to do lots of customizations or customizing the form, just showing them some of the ease of customizations really wins over a lot of prospects. Just the fact that they don't need a developer to do a lot of those customizations. All right, let me just double check questions here. Does CRM have this? The CRM have the same integration in Microsoft Dynamics GP? The same integration as far as to SharePoint, or do you want to? Do you have any more comments on that one? The same integration in, or do you mean as far as integrating CRM data to GP? I mean, if you want to, Michael, if you want to confirm what you mean by same integration, that'll help. Or if you want to come off mute too, you can definitely ask over the phone. So. I'll reply here, that way you should be able to type again. All right, so let me go back. Let's go back to my kind of the ending slide deck here. So that was just a quick, couple examples of customizations that you guys could do within the system, with kind of point and click navigation there. But right now, I'll just kind of open it up more for Q&A. We have about 13 minutes left, but if anyone needs to drop off, thank you again for your time today. We'll meet here again same time tomorrow, and we'll touch on the Exchange integration with CRM Online, how that's kind of configured and set up, and some of the capabilities that has, and like setting up the queue like we demoed yesterday. And then also talk about the Skype and Link, or basically Skype for Business integration as well. So those will be our 2 topics for tomorrow. But again, any questions, feel free to use the Q&A pane or come off mute, and we can go ahead and take those. I'll follow up again with the meeting recording today, and then I'll also include the link to that to remove the GUID. I know sometimes we do get asked for that a lot, so that way I'll just include it so you have the link to the process to do that. But if you don't have any questions, feel free to take these 12 minutes back of your day, and hopefully have a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you tomorrow. But I'll hang out here for another 10 minutes or so for any questions. And again, questions could be on anything CRM related. It doesn't have to be our 2 topics for today. So it could be something from yesterday or any other CRM question you may have. If I don't have the answer, I'll definitely look it up or try to find out for you. So. But Michael, if you are still there, as far as GP integration, we do have a connector that you through Microsoft. It's a free connector that does integrate CRM data with GP, and vice versa, bringing like data from GP over. We actually have a webcast tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Time, so basically right after this one, that Kelly on our team is going to be doing. And I'll jump onto that after as well to help answer some Q&A with that. But if that is an interest for you guys, let me know. I can get you the link for that session. It is right after our session, so this will be 3 hours of sessions for you tomorrow if you want to attend that, or at least get the recording for it. We can definitely get you that. So. All right, thank you for the feedback, Kathleen. Yeah, we'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll go ahead and stop the recording then. That way I can process.